Good evening, Chaitanya.
Very good evening, boss.
Okay, Brahmana was no voice.
Voice వస్తుందా?
వస్తుంది. మీ వాయిస్ కాకపోతే జూమ్ ని కట్ అయ్యాం మేము.
జాయిన్ అయ్యారు అందరూ?
4 వచ్చారబ్బా.
సిపి లేకపోతే కొరత ఉంటది
బాగా. మామూలు కొరత కాదు.
సో కిషోర్ హోస్ట్ కిషోర్ జాయిన్ అవుతున్నాడా?
అసలు చెప్పలా, ఫోన్ చేద్దాం. కిషోర్ ఫోన్ ఎత్తట్లేదబ్బా. నమస్తే సార్, వెంకటేశ్వరరావు గారు.
నమస్తే సార్. నమస్తే, బాగున్నారా?
బాగున్నాను సార్.
చైతన్య గారు బాగున్నారా?
నమస్తే.
చైతన్య గారు బాగున్నారా?
సార్ బాగున్నాను, మీరు బాగున్నారా?
బాగున్నాను.
చాలా రోజులైంది సార్.
చాలా రోజులైంది.
ఎస్. సో ఇట్లా జూమ్ లో కనిపిస్తుంటారన్నమాట మీరు.
అదే లేదు సార్.
ఎక్కడ సార్, ఆఫీసా ఇల్లా?
హౌసే సార్. మీరు ఆఫీసా?
చిన్న వర్క్ ఉండి వచ్చిన్నాను సార్.
ఓకే. ఎలా అవుతున్నాయి ఆడిట్స్?
అందరికి ఎలా అవుతున్నాయి, నాకు అలాగే అవుతున్నాయి సార్.
సుబ్బారావు సార్ కూడా జాయిన్ అయ్యారు, స్పీకర్ కూడా. సార్ వెరీ గుడ్ ఈవినింగ్ సార్, సుబ్బారావు సార్.
కేశవరావు గారు బాగున్నారా?
బాగున్నాను సార్.
చాలా రోజులైంది మీతో మాట్లాడి.
అవును సార్. సార్
సార్ నమస్తే సార్.
శ్రీమన్నారాయణ మూర్తి ఫ్రమ్ చీరాల.
ట్రెజరర్ గారు సార్.
Am I audible, Mr. Srinivas Murthy? శ్రీమన్నారాయణ మూర్తి.
ఆడియబులే సార్. శ్రీమన్నారాయణ గారు రిప్లై ఇవ్వట్లా, జస్ట్ వెయిట్ చేస్తాం. వాయిస్ లోగా వస్తున్నట్టుంది శ్రీమన్నారాయణ.
చెప్తుంది బాగా.
సార్ గుడ్ ఈవినింగ్ సార్.
గుడ్ ఈవినింగ్.
ఆడిబుల్ సార్, వాయిస్ ఆడిబుల్ గానే ఉంది.
ఓకే.
ఎవ్రీథింగ్ ఫైన్?
Yes, from my side it's okay.
Yeah, it is fine. కొంతమంది జాయిన్ అయిన వాళ్ళకి వాళ్ళ మైక్స్ ఎనేబుల్ అవ్వట్లేదు. ఓకే, ఒకటి శ్రీమన్నారాయణ మూర్తి సార్కి ఎనేబుల్ అవ్వాలా, ఎవరో ఒకళ్ళు మెయిన్ సిస్టమ్ అని చెప్పి లాగిన్ అయ్యారు, వాళ్ళకి ఎనేబుల్ అవ్వాలా. ఐ థింక్ వాళ్ళు ఫోన్ లో లాగిన్ అయితే ఫోన్ లో కింద ఒక ఆప్షన్ వస్తుంది, వైఫై ఆర్ ఆడియో టు బి కనెక్టెడ్ అనేది ఆప్షన్ ఎనేబుల్ చేసుకోవాలి.
Once the meeting is commenced, I may not able to talk to them.
Yeah. ఆయనకి జస్ట్ అన్మ్యూట్ చేసుకోమని చెప్దామన్నా ఆప్షన్ రావట్లేదు సార్.
సార్ నమస్తే సార్.
నమస్తే. తెలుసుకోండి సార్.
ఇప్పుడేనా సార్ జాయిన్ అయింది?
జస్ట్.
అవునా సార్? వంశీ నా ల్యాప్టాప్ లో జూమ్ లింక్ తీసి పడేశాడు సార్. అబ్బాయికి ఏదైనా పెనాల్టీ ఏంటి సార్ మీరు?
పెనాల్టీ మీ క్లయింట్ కదా.
కానీ వంశీ అట్లా అంటలేదు సార్. మెయిల్ పెట్టేసి
ప్రేమ్ ఎంతమంది జాయిన్ అయినారు ప్రేమ్?
We will wait for 5 more minutes. As of now, 14 members. All members have joined. Sir Subbarao sir, with your permission, can we wait for 5 more minutes?
Okay.
So now you can talk to Srimanarayan Murthy sir.
జూమ్ నువ్వు దాని మీద పెడితే ఆటోమేటిక్ కొట్టంగానే అది లింక్ అది.
మీరు తిరుపతి వెళ్ళి వచ్చారు కానీ గెటప్ ఏం మారలేదు.
ఎవరు సార్?
జగన్మోహన్ గారు.
జగన్మోహన్ సార్. జగన్ సార్ వినిపిస్తోంది సార్?
ఆయన మైక్ మ్యూట్ లో ఉంది.
ఓకే ఓకే ఓకే.
మాట్లాడతావా?
Prem, I think we can go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening, members. Today our session is about the latest amendments on the charitable institutions income tax by CA KVR Subbarao Garu from Guntur. Before we move on to our session, we would like to play our ICAI motto song. I would request all the members to stand up.
Yeshasupteshu jagrati Yeshasupteshu jagrati Tamam 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 tamusho Kusho nirvimana nirvimana Tadeva shuklam tadeva shukladamam tadamam Tadeva Asmin lokaha asmin loshaha shataha Sarve kanuna sarvikashjana yetadvaita yetadvaita yetadvaita
ఫోన్ ఆన్లో ఉన్నాయి అతను ఆన్లో ఉంటే రాదు అది అతను చూడన్నా రాదా అలా పెట్టాడు చూడు
Thank you, members.
There is other way to express this gratitude. In some of the branches I saw, they keep their hand at the heart when the anthem is played. You can also follow that skill. Standing up.
వస్తే పోనీ సర్వర్ స్లోగా చెప్పు
Yes, sir. So today our chairman is unable to join, CA Ranganayakul Garu. On behalf of Ranganayakul Garu, today our vice chairman CA NB Chaitanya Reddy will begin the session. Over to vice chairman NB Chaitanya Reddy.
Thank you, Prem. So a pleasant good evening on this Sunday to all my members, friends and colleagues. So first of all, let me express my sincere thanks to KVR Subbarao Garu for readily accepting this great seminar. And also I would like to thank all the members for sparing their valuable time on a Sunday. So I take this privilege on behalf of my chairman, CAK Ranganayakulu, who has been struck up with some urgent work or mandatory work at Hyderabad. So I think this is the best relevant topic with which all members can be benefited at this very crucial point of time. There has been a lot of changes in relation to trust and charitable institutions. And I think KVR Subbarao Garu is the best person in industry to deal with those issues. KVR Subbarao Garu is well known to many of the members personally, and many members know him personally. And Sir also knows many members personally, the senior members most probably. And I think he is the best choice, and the relevant topic chosen by the committee is also most relevant for the ongoing season. So I think this is the best opportunity, even though we tried our best to get the CP approval for this particular session, but due to Zoom mapping issue at the institute level, we couldn't get the CP credit. Irrespective of the CP credit, this is a great seminar with a great lot of inputs to be taken, carried forward. And I hope Subbarao Garu will deal the subject in the best possible manner to the best possible benefit of our members. Thank you so much, sir. Welcome to the seminar. And I wish you all the best for this seminar, sir. Thank you for accepting, sir. Over to you, Prem.
Thank you, Chaitanya. So before we move on to the session, let me just give a small brief about our today's resource person, CA KVR Subbarao Garu. Sir has did his primary, secondary, and graduation completely at Guntur. And sir is a qualified chartered accountant in the year 1977 and also secured an All India rank. Sir is a practicing chartered accountant under the name KVR Subbarao in Guntur since 1978. Sir is highly specialized in taxation of charitable and religious trusts and societies, a paper presenter on various issues on taxation in various chapters of chartered accountancy and forums, also articles published in various tax journals. To just give a brief background about Sir's family, Sir is married in 1979 and blessed with two sons. One son is working in their firm, and the other son is also a qualified chartered accountant practicing at Hyderabad. Thank you. Over to our resource person, CA KVR Subbarao.
Good evening, friends. Subject కొంచెం boring గా ఉండొచ్చు. Kindly bear with me. The exemption to trust and institutions is available. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The exemption of trusts or institutions is available under the two regimes. Funds, institutions, or a trust or any university or other educational institution, hospitals or medical institutions referred to in section 1023C, clause 4, 5, 6, and 6A. This is under first regime. The second regime is the institutions registered under 12AA, and now the present section is 12AB. This is categorized as second regime. Earlier, so many restrictions imposed for the second regime of the institutions which are registered under 12A. To bring the bill purpose is to rationalize the provisions of both the above exemption regimes by ensuring their effective monitoring and implementation, bringing consistency in the provisions of two exemption regimes, and providing clarity on taxation in certain circumstances. Earlier, there were hard provisions applicable only to section 10 institutions registered under 12 capital A, but these provisions are missing for the institutions registered under 1023C. There is no provision for corpus donations for 1023C registered institutions or approved institutions. No 115 TD, that is the accredited income provisions, are not applicable to 1023C institutions. Filing of the return in time is not applicable to 1023C institutions. Keeping the funds as specified under section 11 subsection 5 are not provided to 1023C institutions. And there are some other issues also not covered in 1023C. So there is controversy. To bring consistency in the both regimes, now the act is amended again and again. There are total 28 provisions added to section 1023C, unnumbered provisions. In these provisions, all restrictions which are imposed on 12-year regime institutions, that is the second regime institutions, are at par brought to the institutions recognized under 1023C also. Almost analogous, the provisions of 12A as well as 1023C are almost analogous. Now, recent changes are very, very important changes are brought in. If you go through section 44AA, books of accounts prescribed. Books of account prescribed to whom? Only to persons who are carrying on business or profession, but no provision in 44AA to maintain books of accounts for the charitable organizations. Now a proviso is brought into section 12, also equivalent to section 1023C, to maintain books of account that is applicable from the financial year 2022-23 and onwards. So now the institutions have to maintain books of account and such other records as are notified. That means all institutions to maintain cash book, ledgers, journals, and various registers, fixed assets register, etc., etc. And we have to mention where the books of accounts are maintained, the location of the books of accounts maintained, everything we have to disclose. The provisions of 133A also applicable to charitable organizations. Earlier it was not there, but recent times, that is 5 years back, this also brought into the statute that assessing officer has power to make survey under 133A for charitable institutions also. So therefore, advise all your clients, SSCs, to maintain books of accounts right from 1st April 2022 and onwards. Now the other important amendments brought in are, one is corpus donations, second is borrowed funds. The corpus donations earlier was exempted as it, without any condition. Once an amount is received with the specific direction that it shall form part of corpus is exempted under section 11(1) clause D. This is an income under section 12, but deduction or exemption is given under section 11(1) clause D. Now this proviso is, this subsection is amended totally. Now corpus donation as it is not exempted. The corpus donation is exempted with the two conditions. The first condition is it must come with a direction from the donor that it shall form part of corpus. Second condition is you must keep the money in a specified bank account opened for the same purpose. For maintaining corpus donations, now you have to maintain a separate bank account wherein you have to deposit the money, then only you can claim exemption under section 11(1)(d). So do not deposit in the normal bank account. You must maintain in a separate bank account. A separate bank account is to be opened to handle the corpus donations. And any amount spent out of these corpus donations, say for capital expenditure, revenue expenditure, whatever it is, that expenditure is not allowed as application of income from this year onwards. The amendment of that is previous year, this section brought in to the statute from the Finance Act 2021. So therefore, any amount applied out of the corpus funds is not permitted to be considered as an application of income under section 11, subsection 1, that is 85%. So some noise is disturbing frequently.
I would request the participants, when you're joining, kindly mute yourself. Thank you.
Now you have received 1 crore of rupees corpus donation. Rightly, you have deposited the same into a specified bank account. Now you can claim such depositing corpus donation as exempted income under section 11(1) clause D. When the amount is utilized or applied or spent, you cannot claim again because it becomes a double deduction. You cannot claim again the expenditure as application of income. Now you have withdrawn in the same example, we continue, 1 crore rupees received as corpus donation, which amount is deposited into the bank and claimed as exemption under section 11(1)(d). Subsequently, you have withdrawn a sum of 95 lakhs and spent for construction of buildings. That 95 lakhs you cannot again claim as application of income under section 11(1)(a). Then you may ask, sir, my entire corpus is synced. What to do? Now the section says, if you again redeposit back in the coming years, any sums, any out of any income into the same bank account, that is corpus fund bank account, that year that amount is allowed as application of income for charitable purpose. Let us continue the same example. 1 crore rupees you have collected as corpus, which amount rightly you have deposited into the bank and claimed exemption under section 11(1)(d), of which 95 lakh rupees you have withdrawn and spent for construction of capital asset. So balance left over in the corpus donation is only 5 lakhs. In the coming years, you have surplus funds. Of these funds, if you redeposit into the bank, say next year 10 lakh rupees deposited into the corpus fund bank account, you can claim that 10 lakhs as application of income in the year in which it is deposited. Similar provisions are brought in for the borrowed funds also. Earlier, once the money is borrowed and utilized, that money is treated as application of income. Again, when the loan is repaid, there also you are claiming the repayment of loan as application of income. That means that twice you are claiming for the same amount. That is also now controlled with the new provision. Any loan, if it is taken and amount spent out of loan, that you cannot claim as application of income. When it can be considered only on repayment of loan, you can claim it as application of income. Therefore, you have to maintain a loan account separate, of which you draw the money and utilize for the objectives. Both stages you don't get any benefit. Borrowing stage as well as the spending stage. Once you start repaying the money, that repayment can be considered as application in the year it is repaid. So therefore, be careful about handling loans as well as corpus funds. Now coming to section 11 application, 85% is to be applied to claim exemption 100% under 11(1)(a). If by any reason, if the institution fails to spend, say for example, 1 crore of rupees collected by the institution, the income of the institution is 1 crore of rupees, of which it is to spend 85 lakhs to claim exemption under section 11(1)(a). That is 15% you can accumulate forever without any restrictions. Due to some reasons, the institution cannot spend the money. It has spent only 50 lakh rupees. That means there is a shortfall of 35 lakhs. This 35 lakhs is taxable because there is a shortfall in 85%, that is taxable. What is the remedy available in the Act? There is section 11 subsection 2 that gives what to do with the accumulated funds. Once the funds are unutilized, there is a shortfall of 85%. That shortfall can be accumulated and utilized in the coming 5 years. But there are so many restrictions for accumulation. The first restriction is you must pass a resolution in the board for what purpose the funds are going to be accumulated. You must specify the purpose for which the funds are to be accumulated. Next, you have to give a notice to the assessing officer by filing a form, that is a form number 10, within the time allowed under 139 subsection 1. So within the time we have to file form number 10 electronically. If you fail to file the application within the time electronically, you lose the benefit of accumulation. The next condition is you cannot keep the money with you and utilize for some other purposes. You have to deposit in specified investments as provided under section 11 subsection 5. There is a pattern of investments given. Therefore, funds, unutilized funds or accumulated funds are to be kept in those deposits. And this fact you have to report every year. What are the funds accumulated? How much out of this accumulated funds are utilized, etc. Within 5 years, you have to draw the money and utilize for the purpose for which it is accumulated. If not, what happens? Section 11 subsection 3 comes into force. Section 11 subsection 3 says if the monies are not utilized within 5 years, it becomes income in the next year, that is the 6th year, as per section 11(3)(c). Section 11(3)(c). Now that is again in the Finance Act 2022 restricted, that in the current next succeeding year is removed. You have to utilize the funds within only 5 years, not in the 6th year. Once the monies are not utilized within 5 years, it becomes income of the 5th year and liable to be taxed. That is called the deemed income. What rate of tax is to be paid? That part we consider later. So as per section 13 subsection 3, the first restriction is you must utilize the fund for the specific purpose for which it is accumulated within 5 years. And if the monies are withdrawn from the specified investment, then also you lose the benefit of accumulation. If the monies are utilized for the object for which not specified in form number 10 is also to be taxed. If the funds are transferred to another institution, that is also not permitted to be treated as application of income. Therefore, be careful about accumulated funds. What rate of tax is to be paid? There is a new section brought into the statute, that is 115 BBI. 115 BBI has come into force. As per this section, as per 11 subsection 3, if it is treated as deemed income, tax is to be paid at the maximum marginal rate of 30%. So be careful about this taxation. Earlier it was not so. Now it is tax rate, maximum margin rate 30% plus surcharge, etc., etc. The funds of the institution cannot be transferred to another institution, though it is registered under 12A as a corpus donation. This year you got 50 lakh rupees income, out of which 25 lakhs you have transferred to another institution as corpus donation. That is not permitted to be claimed as application of income in the current year in that 85%. It is not fit into 85%. Therefore, you can transfer the funds to another institution just as voluntary contribution, not as corpus donation. The most horrible explanation added to section 11(1) is, earlier the section says application of income for charitable objectives. Application doesn't mean spending. Even you can earmark the funds for such and such objectives. That is also permitted as application. Now the latest proviso added to section 11, that's the last proviso to section 11, that says expenditure is allowed as application only on actual payment. If you follow the mercantile system of accountancy, you lose the benefit of entire expenditure as application of income. Only the expenditure which is paid during the year only to be considered as application. So the educational institutions like engineering colleges, engineering colleges, mostly they follow mercantile system of accountancy because of certain restrictions. The AFRC people, they demand for mercantile system, and also they go for loan based on their fees receivables. Therefore, they cannot switch over to cash system. But now they have to face the music. Only the amount actually spent is considered as application of income. No provisions are permitted. Salary provisions they make, those provisions are not to be considered as application of income. That means you have to be very careful while calculating the income which is applied for the objectives, that is 85%. Next to the interested persons. Interested persons are members of the institution. The members means the governing body members and the office bearers of the institution. There are a list provided in section 13, subsection 3. Interested persons. To those interested persons, if any benefit is passed on, that is taxable for violating the provision, that is as per section 13(1) subclause C. So as per 13(1)(c), that amount is taxable at the maximum marginal rate, but there is no provision in the law. Only provision available is section 164 or a master circular given in 1978. There it is provided that it is taxable at the maximum marginal rate. Only to that extent the violation is taxable at the maximum marginal rate. To remove this confusion, a section is brought in, that is 115 BBI. As per section 115 BBI, that is deemed income is taxable at 30%. Also this violation of 13(1)(c) violation, that is also taxable at maximum marginal rate. And also one more violation is 13(1)(d). Any investments made otherwise than the pattern of investments prescribed under section 11 subsection 5, that is also taxable at the maximum marginal rate as per 115 BBI. There is one more condition prescribed here. If any money is utilized for the benefit of interested persons, the tax is payable at the maximum marginal rate 30% as per section 115 BBI plus penalty. The penalty is equal to just 100%. A new section is brought in, that is 271 AAE. A new section is brought in. For the violation, the tax payable is 30% plus penalty payable is also 30%, 100%. Now, if the same mistake commits again and again, if it is committed the next time also, the next time it becomes 200%, not just 100%. So do not pass on any benefit to the members of the institution. That is section 13(1)(d) read with section 115 BBI, also read with section 271 AAE. Now we touch upon section 1023C, leaving provisions of 12 for the moment. Section 1023C, there are again two divisions. The divisions are 1023C 3AD as well as 1023C clause 4, 5, 6, 6A. Educational or medical institutions whose gross receipts are less than ₹1 crore come under 1023C 3AD. They can claim exemption without any restrictions. There is also no provision to get their accounts audited. They can simply file the return under section 139(4) capital C and claim exemption as it is. Now, our professionals has taken advantage of it. The section says educational institution existing solely for educational purpose. So institution means a singular. If a society managing educational institution, one for primary school, one for higher secondary school, one for junior college, one for degree college. So there are 4 institutions under the same society. Each gross receipts are not exceeding 1 crore. If all put together, the aggregate may cross 1 crore. So therefore, a new provision is brought in to remove this anomaly. As per the new provision, 1023C 3AD is amended, and the limit of 1 crore is raised to 5 crores. The 5 crores all put together, all institutions consolidated, it should not exceed 5 crores. Then it can enjoy the same benefits as it was enjoying under section 1023C 3AD earlier. I have a live case. One chartered accountant has come to me. Their client is an educational institution whose gross receipts are just 38 lakhs. And they have rightly filled the return form claiming exemption under 1023C 3AD. But unfortunately, they have touched some other columns of the return of income, that is 115TD. That 115TD part in detail I will explain later. 115TD is accreted income taxable at 30%. Accreted income is the present value of assets less liabilities, if any. The balance is accreted income. In case of companies, we call it as intrinsic value, net worth of the institution, etc., etc. Now they call it as here accreted income. This accreted income is taxable at 30%. Unnecessarily, the auditor has filled that particular column, based on which, as the case is selected for scrutiny, the auditor is not aware the case is selected for scrutiny and he has not attended at any stage of the proceedings. Assessment order passed. The learned assessing officer, ignoring his wisdom, he passed a big order, pasting the provisions of 115TD in the assessment order. At the first instance, he stated that the institution has filed the return of income claiming exemption under 1023C 3AD, etc., etc. is written. Because he has not disclosed the 115TD income, he has brought in the provisions of 115TD, etc., etc. And finally, he says once the income exceeding 1 crore of rupees, it is also liable to get its accounts audited. And therefore, there are 3 violations and a huge tax is levied. And also penalty provisions under 270 capital A are also initiated. That also auditor hasn't taken note of it. And the penalty also levied for underreporting of income. Now, what are the mistakes committed both sides, both the auditor as well as the assessing officer? The mistake committed by the auditor is selecting 115TD, which is no way related. You should not have filled 115TD information. Now coming to the other side of the table, that is assessing officer, faceless regime. He should have applied his knowledge. He should have applied his wisdom. The provisions of 115TD squarely not applicable to the institutions which are registered, which are coming under 1023C 3AD, both in the old Act as well as in the present Act. The section is amended with the Finance Act 22. 115TD provisions are also applicable to 1023C institutions, but not 1023C 3AD. Still, the provisions are not applicable to the institutions covered under 1023C 3AD 3AE. Now, 115TD provisions, when not applicable, he should not have made the addition in the assessment order. And also he could not have considered this as underreporting in the assessment order. This is all totally unnecessary, both sides. Because of the mistake committed by the auditor, further mistakes are committed by the department. Now, who is the sufferer? The client. The total tax levied is around, including penalty, is around 68 lakhs or 69 lakhs. The actual receipts are only 38 lakhs to the school. Now the demand raised is 68 lakhs. In the faceless regime, there are wonders. The officers are doing very wonders. One classic example, though it is not related to charitable organizations, I will touch upon. One primary agricultural cooperative society has withdrawn 5 crores and all from the bank to distribute to the farmers towards loans. The case is selected for scrutiny and then the notice is given for this cash withdrawals explanation. The auditor hasn't attended the case. Also, the SSC is not aware of because his mail ID is not there. He hasn't received any mails, no messages, nothing. The assessment is completed. The officer chosen 69A, unexplained money. Not 68, unexplained cash credits. 68 applicable only to unexplained cash credits, not the money withdrawn from bank. Unnecessarily has raised at around 2.8 crores demand. So these are the wonders we have to face in the faceless regime. But be careful, attend the cases almost immediately. Do not waste your time. Do not postpone the faceless notices. Now we'll come back to 1023C 3AD. Now the limit is raised to 5 crores. Whether they have to apply for any approval? Absolutely no. Only those institutions whose gross receipts exceeded 5 crores, they come under 1023C 4, 4A, 5, 4, 4, 4, 5, 6, 6A. So these sections, the institutions have to file application in the new regime. It is form number 10A. Earlier it was 56D. Now it is form 10A for all. మన తెలుగులో చెప్తుంటారు అన్ని రోగాలకి తిప్పతీగానే. So for all registrations now they brought only one form, that is form number 10A. The form 10A is for 12-year registration, 8AG registration, 35AS registration, 1023 registrations. For all it is 10A only. For 12AB now the form is 10AB. Therefore, 1023C 3AD institutions are also to be ready with all these missiles attack. The missiles attack is getting their accounts audited, filing the report in time. Now, in case of audit report, both 12A as well as this 1023C, when the audit report is to be filed, earlier it was section 12AB, 12A 1B. The audit report is to be filed along with the return of income. There are so many practical issues. Audit report is filed today because of the glitches in the income tax side. The return could not be filed today. Only the very next day the return is filed. But both are well within the time of 139 subsection 1. But CPC has no mercy. Since the audit report is not filed along with return of income, huge paper demand was raised. Day before yesterday, Commissioner also addressed about it. There are 20,000 crores paper demand for the charitable organizations, out of which only 3,000 crores are available for collection. Balance 17,000 crores are only paper demand for these provisions written by the authorities who are sitting there in CBDT. Now they have realized, and now it is dealing with the return of income. The return of income can be filed well within the time under 139 subsection 1, whereas audit report is now linked to 44AB. Section 44AB, you know pretty well, every person carrying on business or profession whose gross receipts exceeded or turnover exceeded certain limits, etc., they must get their accounts audited by an accountant under section 288 and obtain a report before a specified date and file when it is to be filed 1 month in advance. That is, the return of income is to be filed before 31st October. Now the audit report is to be filed before the end of this month, that is 29th of September. So if you fail to file the audit report, thinking that the return of income is to be filed in the month of October, we can also file the audit report as they lose the benefit of exemption. Therefore, file the audit reports well within the time. You have only 20 days left. You may file the audit report, the return of income late. Late means the next month. If the return of income is filed belatedly under 139(5), then you lose again benefit of exemption. I think it's 139(4). You lose the benefit of exemption if the return of income is filed belatedly. So file the audit report well within the time. Also file the return of income well within the time to claim exemption under the charitable sections. For earlier belated audit reports filing, board has given 3 circulars for both Form 10 belated applications as well as Form 10B. They are given condonation powers to the commissioners of income tax. Recently in July 2022, one more circular given. Prior to that, 365 days, within 365, if the audit report is filed, the commissioners are empowered under 119(2)(b) to give condonation to such institutions. But some of the institutions filed beyond 365, but some commissioners have granted condonation. Later, they have recalled back those condonation letters and advised those customer clients to go approach the CBDT in connection with a judgment pronounced by Bombay High Court. So therefore, there are 30,000 or 40,000 applications pending before the CBDT. To remove this particular workload, they have served another circular, the highly complicated circular, highly confused circular. In the first paragraph, they say the powers are given to commissioners, principal commissioners, chief commissioners. Second paragraph, they say commissioners and principal commissioners and commissioners. Fourth paragraph, again, commissioner, principal commissioner. So a lot of confusion. If you file belated, the time extension is 3 years. If you file condonation application, now commissioners not accepting those applications, they are advising you to go to commissioner, chief commissioner or principal chief commissioner. Now earlier, once the application of that audit report is filed belatedly means not along with the return of income, huge demands are raised. The demands are calculated treating the entire gross receipts as income. Now there are appeals filed by various institutions how the income tax can tax on the gross income. The income tax is always leviable only on the net income, but how can they tax on the gross income? Now, a new section is brought in the Finance Act 2022. The new section is section 13, subsection 10. They have given a method of computing income in case of such Denial of Section 11 benefits. Once the Section 11 benefits are denied, the method of computation of income is provided in Section 13, subsection 10. There are certain restrictions here. Corpus, any expenditure out of corpus donations are to be excluded. Any expenditure out of accumulated fund under Section 11(2) excluded. Any depreciation claimed out of on the assets which are earlier claimed as application, that is to be excluded. Any expenditure out of loan funds, that is to be excluded. Like this, there are so many restrictions given to compute the income of the institution under Section 13, subsection 10. Now coming to anonymous donations, this is also brought into the statute very recently. Anonymous donations are taxable at the maximum marginal rate. What is anonymous donation? ఊరు పేరు లేని చందా ఒక భక్తుడు ఒక గుడికి 50,000 రూపాయలు డొనేషన్ ఇచ్చారు. ఆయన భక్తుడు, ఆయన పేరు చెప్పరు. So that anonymous donation is taxable at the maximum marginal rate. There are two types of institutions. One is charitable, other is religious. The religious institutions represented to the government. They said we have hundis and we collect income from hundis, and no person attaches his Aadhaar card to the donation, what else he put into the hundi. Then how to know his name, how to know his address, PAN number, etc., etc. So therefore, considering all this, the government has considered the difficulties of the religious institutions and modified the section stating that these provisions are applicable only to charitable institutions, but not to religious institutions. For the religious institutions, another problem. What is religious? What is charitable? In the entire income tax, there is no definition for charity, no definition for religion. Then how to identify what is religion and what is charity? The charity is not defined, but the charitable purpose is given as a definition in Section 2, subsection 15. As per this section, this is an inclusive definition. Earlier, we have only 4 limbs. That is relief to the poor, education, medical relief, and any other object for general public utility. Now, another 2 clauses added, that is maintenance of forests, monuments, etc., etc., and watersheds. And the 7th clause is added. Once the Prime Minister took the charge, he added yoga as charitable purpose. Now we have 7 limbs. This is only the charitable purpose defined under Section 2, subsection 15 with the 7 limbs, whereas religion is not defined in the Income Tax Act. What is religion? $1 million question. It's only a faith. But a tricklish judgment has come, that is Nagapur Tribunal, that says an institution has filed an application for ATZ recognition. ATZ is to be granted only to institutions for charitable and religious. Religious institutions are not eligible for ATZ recognition. So rightly, the commission has rejected the application of the institution, stating you are not eligible for ATZ recognition. Then they went to the court of law. The institution's name is Siva Mandir Trust. They do only Hindu pujas and they applied for ATZ. So rightly, the commission rejected. They went to the tribunal. Tribunal passed a order with I think 11 pages order stating what is religion. They have also quoted the quotations of Vivekananda, etc., etc. And they said Hinduism is only a way of life. It is not a religion. Okay, they won the case, and the tribunal directed the commissioner to grant ATG to the institution. Okay. Now come to the other side of the coin. Other side of the coin, once the Hinduism is not religion, what happens to big temples we have in the state or in the country? We have a big temple in our state. Every evening you find a scrolling. So many pilgrims attended, and the hundi collections are so and so. It is running in crores. So once it is Hinduism is not a religion, then all these hundi collections are taxable. Under which section? 115 BBC. That is all taxable. Coming to the other part of the religion, Sai Baba. Sai Baba is a religious god or a religious guru? As far as I remember, there are two case laws. One is given by the Madras High Court in 1973, and other case law pronounced by Andhra Pradesh High Court in 1974. Andhra Pradesh High Court has given a judgment in 34 pages, narrating the life of Sai Baba, where he born, where he is brought up, etc., etc. And finally, this is case represented by the Sai Samsthan of Delhi people. They said Sai is not the god; he is only religious guru. And court also has agreed and passed an order. Sai mandirs are outside the purview of religion. Therefore, endowment has no role to play in the Sai mandirs. Now, Sai mandirs are charitable organizations. But you find almost in every Sai mandir there is a hundi. They collect every day hundi collections. Whether those hundi collections are taxable, as per this Nagapur Tribunal's judgment, these are all taxable as anonymous hundi collections. You know, this is a highly sensitive point. We do not know what happens in future. Now, earlier we used to claim if any excess of amount is spent, suppose your income is 10 lakhs, but you have spent 15 lakh rupees towards the objectives, and you claim that 5 lakhs is the excess amount applied in anticipation of future income. And the judgments in favor of the SSC, first judgment as far as I remember is from Rajasthan, that is CAT versus Maharana of Mewar. So in that excess amount in anticipation of the future incomes they have spent, that is to be allowed as to be carried forward to the next year. Now from the Finance Act, in the Finance Act 2022, it is totally restricted. You can claim only the actual amount spent, not the excess amount spent. They say the rationale behind this adjustment is the incomes of the institutions are pre-tax. One is the current year's income. Second is accumulated and unconditional own funds and borrowed funds. With this only you can spend borrowed funds as and when you repay, you can claim. Accumulated unconditional 11.2, that is accumulated for a specific purpose. Therefore, there are certain other provisions, that is 11 subsection 3, etc., that will take care of. The balance is only the current income. The 15% accumulations to be utilized only for the future expenditure, but cannot be claimed as carry forward of excess amount utilized in any year. Therefore, if any amount spent out of excess, the excess amount utilized, it cannot be claimed as application of any. If you go through the return of income, if your expenditure is in excess, automatically you get a prompt. Please check up the amount applied is is exceeding the actual amounts collected. there is a provision given in the return of income. That is, I think if you follow the WINMAN, there is a column sources of funds for revenue as well as corpus. Those there you have to spend. Where from this excess amount is spent, out of accumulated 15% or out of borrowed funds or out of corpus funds, that you have to mention. Similarly, the capital expenditure, if it is in excess of the amounts received, there also you have to write where from you have spent this money. Therefore, set off of past deficit cannot be permitted hereafter. Now, filing of the return of incomes, earlier we have for filing the belated returns up to 31st of December or 31st of March. Now the time is reduced to only 31st December. So therefore, if you want to file a revised return or a belated return, the time limit is only 31st December, not beyond. Afterwards, the system will not take the return of income at all. Now coming to this 115 TD, that is accrued income. 115 TD is brought into the statute in the year 2016. 115 TD, TE, TM. There are three sections. Accrued income. It means fair market value of the assets minus liabilities on a specified date. When this accrued income arises, if the organization gets converted into any form which is not eligible under section 12AA, that means if it is converted into a business entity, that day you lose the benefit of exemption and 115 TD come into play. Also, if the registration granted by the Commissioner of Income Tax, if it is cancelled on that day, again 150 TD comes into play. I think, have you gone through this Form 10 EAC given to institutions? Recently you have filed for re-registration of institutions and you have received within a 10 days time 10 EAC order for registration. I hope most of you have gone through this particular Form 10 EAC. Am I right, sir? But most of you have taken this printout and must have kept in the file without going to the conditions mentioned in the application, 10 EAC registration certificate. There are 18 conditions prescribed. Just to go through these. It says one of the horrible condition is no institution. That condition is point number L. No asset shall be transferred without the knowledge of jurisdictional commissioner of income tax to anyone, including to any trust society. So you cannot now sell or transfer any asset without the permission of the commissioner. The difficulty when you are running a school, the school bus is age old, and now you have to sell off this school bus for a lower price. As per this, here they say it is not immovable property, it is an asset. No asset shall be transferred. Even for selling a bus, you have to write a letter to the commissioner, get permission. Till then, you cannot sell the bus. Computers, typewriters, the furniture, all these are categorized. This, I think, loosely spelled this condition. No asset shall be transferred without the permission of, without the knowledge of the commissioner. So bring it to the knowledge. That means file a letter, take an acknowledgement, keep with you. We brought it to your knowledge, and then only we have sold the property. There is no condition that you have to get permission from him. It is only knowledge of the jurisdiction commissioner to anyone. Directly don't sell the property. So if you sell the property without the knowledge of the Commissioner of Income Tax, if you violate any of these conditions, it is subject to cancellation of 12A. Once 12A is cancelled, this 115 TD comes into play. So be careful. You cannot transfer your address of the registered address of the institution from one state to other state. Within the jurisdiction of the jurisdictional commissioner, you can transfer from one place to another place. But if it is transferred to another jurisdictional commissioner, you have to take permission. And if the institution is doing any business, if it is incidental to the attainment of objectives, the institution can do business. That is permitted. Section 11(4)(4)(a) covers or takes control of these businesses. If the business is done which is not incidental to the attainment of objectives, then that is one of the conditions. You lose the benefit that is given in point J. Separate account in respect of profits and gains of business incidental of objects shall be maintained. And if it is not incidental to the business, then the 115 TD comes into play. So maintain separate set of books of account for the business. Suppose an institution is running an educational institution, it is also running a bookstall. Bookstall is incidental to the attainment of objectives. Also, medical shop run by a medical institution, that is also incidental to the attainment. It cannot sell computers because it is not incidental to the attainment of objectives. And if any money is applied for objects other than for which it is established, is also one of the conditions for cancellation of 12A. There are certain specific conditions given. As per those specific conditions, I will go through those conditions also. Your 12A is liable to be cancelled. Once it is cancelled, 115 TD come into play and the maximum tax is to be levied. The specific violations are given for cancellation of 12A and 12AB. Any income of the trust or institution under the second regime has been applied other than the objects for which it is established. And most of us not gone through the objects of the institution. They are bringing the objects of the institution, just we are filing for 12A and keeping in the file. And also we are not checking whether the expenditure claimed by the institution in the year is related to the objectives of the institution for which it is established. So take care while certifying the balance sheet. So trust or institution under second regime has income from profits and gains of business which is not incidental to the attainment of its objectives, or separate books of accounts are not maintained. This is also a specific violation liable for cancellation of 12A. And if the funds of the institution are utilized for any private religious purposes. Next, the institution or a trust under the second regime established for charitable purpose, created or established after the commencement of the Act, has applied any of its income for the benefit of any particular religious community or caste. So do not open any institution for the benefit of a particular religious community or caste. Reddy Jana Seva Samiti, Kamma Jana Seva Samiti, Arya Vaisya Samiti, these are all caste based. So these institutions are now not permitted after the commencement of the Act, that means 1/4/1962 onwards. These institutions cannot run. And if any money is spent for this, if you donate of any of your income to such institutions is also prohibited. And any activity being carried out by the trust or institution under the second regime, which is not genuine or is not carried out in accordance with all or any of the conditions subject to which it was registered. In all these conditions, the commissioner has every power to cancel the registration of 12A Once the registration is cancelled, the 115 TD comes into play and you have to pay maximum tax of 30% on the accrued income. Once you pay the accrued income, once your 12A is cancelled, suppose next year you have again applied for 12A and the commissioner granted, you cannot get back the taxes paid under 115 TD. That is lost forever. Now the new regime has come. Earlier, once the 12-year registration was granted, it is perpetual unless and until cancelled by the Commissioner of Income Tax. Now a 12AB has come into play. Re-registration for 12-year institutions, they have given certain time, that is March 31st, 2021. Within the time, you have filed the application, that is all the documents what are required online, and immediately without any queries, all of you got 10 AC forms. That is only re-registration. It is not renewal. Re-registration is a good name selected. That means your applications are again collected because the department has no comprehensive data with it. Because local commissioners have granted 12 years earlier, and no commissionerate holding any records of the past 12-year issued cases. So there is no data available. To get all these particulars, they have rightly given a name as re-registration. And we have simply filed all the papers, what all filed before the commissioners earlier. Now the entire data is with the income tax department. Now you cannot say that I do not have this and you do not have any right to manipulate any papers. Already all the papers are with the department in digital form. So therefore that once it is re-registered, you are given 5 years time for going for renewal under section 12AB. Earlier it was perpetual, now it is restricted to only 5 years. Every 5 years you have to go for renewal. Now the commissioner have right to call for any records for granting the renewal. For re-registration, they haven't asked any queries. But for renewals, commissioner, they call for any records for verification. They will verify and then only they grant registration renewal. That renewal is limited only for the maximum period of 5 years. When we have to go for again renewal, before 6 months of the end of 5 years, you have to go for renewal. Now, if an institution files for a 12-year application first time, they grant again without asking any queries. They give provisional registration. The provisional registration is valid only for a period of 3 years maximum, or within 3 years means before 6 months from the end of the 3 years period, or 6 months from the date of commencement of activity. What is this commencement of activity? There is no clarity in the law. What is the activity? Suppose an institution is started, registered, and they have purchased furniture and a computer, and they have appointed some 2 or 3 employees. Do you call this as commencement of activity? The assessing officer may say, yes, it is commencement of activity, and he may say, you have not filed the application within 6 months, you are not eligible for registration. They may reject your application. Therefore, be careful, file the application for registration, original registration, after provisional registration within 6 months. Now the date is extended to 30th September by a circular given by CBDT recently. So therefore, 30th September is the last date for the newly started institutions go for regular registration. Now, your institution is registered for education. Your institution is existing for educational purposes solely and applied for or enjoying 1023C recognition. Now you want to go for 12A. registration or 12AB. You can switch over to 12AB. But again, can you come back? It is not permitted. Only once it is permitted to switch over from the one regime to other regime, but it is not regular. The Commission of Income Tax, for cancellation, there is a procedure. They have to issue an opportunity to the SSC to be heard. And the maximum time to be taken by the Commissioner for cancellation is 6 months from the date of commencement of the initiation of the proceedings. Within 6 months, he has to pass an order denying your application or cancellation of your existing registration. Now coming to section 80G, this is also modified. Section 80G, originally it was for 5 years. Now they made it into perpetual. Now with this new regime, it is also maximum for 5 years only 80G certificates. But there are certain conditions given for 80G. You have to make an application in Form 10A to the for re-registration. Thereafter, you have to go for renewal in 12A regime. So once the registration is granted, what are your duties? The donations collected are to be e-filed in the income tax site in form number 10BD. 10BD form, when it is to be filed before 31st of May every year. While filing this application, you have to mention the name of the donor, PAN number or Aadhaar number of the donor, and his total address, mode of receipt, etc. are to be uploaded. Once it is uploaded, you can immediately download, that is within 24 hours or maximum 48 hours, you can download Form 10E, the receipts in PDF for each and every donor. Those certificates are to be given to the SSCs. Then only they can claim that 80G in their return of income. Now, suppose you have omitted some of the names to be uploaded in form number 10B. Can we file a revised return? No. The revised return conditions are you can file a revised application for only correcting the PAN numbers, name, etc., etc. But you cannot add any more names once the application is filed in form number 10BD. Be careful. Suppose you don't file application at all in form number 10BD before 31st of May. You want to file it in the next month. You have realized it and filing in the month of next June. Then you have to pay penalty. That penalty is under section 234G. As per section 234G, the penalty is also very simplified, rationalized all penalties. They are calling it as only fees. The fees is 200 rupees per day till the return of the application is filed. If it is 10 days, pay 2,000 rupees. Sir, we just file the fee, pay the fees and file it. But there is one more problem, that is penalty. The penalty is 10,000 rupees. That is 271 capital K. 271K takes care of these penalties. If you fail to file an application under this 10BD, then you may have to pay the penalty of not less than 10,000, maximum 1 lakh. Be careful. File the 10BD forms well within the time, because the government is taking every care. They are sending messages to the SSC's registered mobile. File Form 10BD in time. Recently, most of the SSC have received file Form 10BD in time before 30th September. Most of them have received. So the government is doing its own job, but we are not coping up. We are not filing in time. Do not keep your mail ID with the SSC, but keep the mail ID as only secondary, not primary. Throw the blame on the SSC only. Do not take blame on you. Because if your mail ID is given, it will be sent to you and you won't get any message. We don't see, because of our busyness, we don't see the mails. The time lapses. Automatically, we may have to pay the price. Now, if you have any queries about this new register amendments to the charitable institutions of the recent times, you may raise. Then we go for the filing of ITR 7.
Members, you can unmute yourself and can ask your doubts in case if anyone has any doubts.
Sir, there is one doubt in chat box, sir. Please, sir. Guru Garu. Okay, sir. Sir, Finance Act 2022 has inserted explanation to section 11, subsection 7, that is application of income, will be considered only on actual payment basis. Whether this amendment is applicable for assessment year 22-23 or from assessment year 23-24. That is the query, sir.
This provision is brought in only in the current Finance Act, applicable from next year onwards, 23-24 onwards. This is not 11.7, this is in 13 subsection. Oh, sorry, it is 11, last explanation.
Sir, regarding, sir, good evening, sir. I'm the Kota Janardhan from Kadapa.
From Kadapa?
Yes, sir.
How are you, sir?
Fine, fine, sir. Thank you. Bonara. Sir, the section 13(1)(c) related party payments. Reasonable amount is allowable. Anything paid more than reasonable amount only is disallowable. Section 31(c).
Now, section 12, subsection 2, it says, if any benefit is passed on to them at free of cost, then 13(1)(c) attracts. If any benefit is passed on at concessional rate, only the balance portion is 13(1)(c). If every fees is collected, no benefit is passed on. Earlier, there was a provision, that is, the interested persons cannot take any benefit from the institution. Say, for example, suppose in Manipal, there is a medical college, the donors, that is the office bearers, cannot take any treatment in the Manipal hospitals, which was constructed by them or run by their institution. They have to go to another institution. With all the representations made by them, section 12, subsection 2 is added. So any benefit passed on means without any, without making any payment, if the benefit is taken, that is to be treated as income, violation of section 13(1)(c).
Sir, I am referring to salary payments to executive committee members.
No, there is section 13, subsection 7. There are a list of section 13, subsection 2. There are certain given. If it is reasonable, salary can be paid to the members of the office bearers or the related parties. But we have to mention in our audit report in section 13, subsection 3, read with 13(1)(c).
So only what is paid beyond reasonable amount is disallowable.
No, as an auditor, you cannot say what is beyond the reasonable limit. You mention in the audit report what is amount paid.
Yes, sir. We will report whatever is amount paid.
It is the assessing officer's headache to prove that it is unreasonable.
Sir, if the assessing officer proves that if the salary is paid is 12 lakhs per annum, assessing officer feels 9 lakhs is reasonable. He will disallow only 3 lakhs or he will disallow entire 12 lakhs.
No, only 3 lakhs.
Only 3 lakhs he will disallow.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then this hostels attached to educational institutions, wherein only the students of the education institutions stay and take their food. Whether that forms part of incidental objects or incidental to the main activity, and separate books of account have to be maintained.
Maintenance of hostels is nothing but incidental to the attainment of objects.
Yes.
Therefore, no separate books are to be maintained. It is only incidental to, it's not a business. It is part and parcel of education.
Sir, one education institution having a turnover is a gross receipts of 4 crores. Previously, we applied for 12 and got it. And we have also got re-registration done and 10 years received. Gross receipts are 4 crores. Say. And management says it is not likely to exceed 5 crores in the next 10 years. Whether we can opt for 1023 3AD even though we have 10 years in our hand.
You can opt for 1023C 3AD.
Whether 115 TD they will attack.
No, 115 TD only when it is cancelled.
Okay, sir. They may cancel 12 year, no?
No, already you have 12 year or 1023C.
Sir, we have 12 years. Sir.
You have 12 year, but you are not using it. You are mentioning how.
Sir, we are, sir, so far we are using 12 year only. Just now, just because the limit is raised to 5 crores, 2 options are open for us at this stage.
Section 11, subsection 7 says you can opt for one time. So from 12 year, you can come back to 1023C. And for renewal, you don't apply for renewal.
Yes. Again, we have to apply for renewal. 10 year B, we have to.
No. Don't apply for renewal because you said that it is not likely to exceed 4 crores at any time.
Yes, sir.
Then claim only under 1023C 3AD because it is 5 lakhs and no other restrictions are getting the accounts audited, etc.
Yes, we want to avoid the restrictions, sir. Then we can claim 1023C?
Choose 1023C 3AD rightly.
Sir, in respect of 10BD, in respect of ATG donations received, supposing an institution has ATG registration and it has received donations, but no donor is willing to claim ATG benefit.
No, this form 10B is only for those to claim ATG in their return of income, the donors.
Okay.
If they do not want to go for any claim of such deduction, no need to apply for in form 10BD.
Okay. Regarding filing of return of income in a charitable trust case, in the modified return form, there is in the balance sheet, he is asking what is the amount accumulated under 15%, what is the amount accumulated under 11.2. 11.2 we can easily identify.
No, that we will take up only while going through this form.
Okay, sir. Second session. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any more queries, sir? ఈ సబ్జెక్ట్ విన్నంతసేపు ఏమి డౌట్స్ రావండి. సీట్లో కూర్చొని రిటర్న్ ఫారం ఫిలప్ చేస్తున్నప్పుడు వస్తాయి చాలా.
Sir, hello, sir. Sir, non-deduction of TDS on expenditure, sir, what are the implications, sir?
The provisions of 269SS, 269ST, 269T 40A3, all the provisions which are applicable to business organizations are applicable to charitable institutions also.
Sir.
For non-deduction, there are explanation given to section 11, 40AIA. We have to, luckily, no obligation is given to auditors. The audit report is not yet modified.
Yes,
next year, we may expect the audit report is also getting modified. For this year, in the written form, you have to mention what are the SSC himself to disclose 40AIA violation figure, 40A3 violations. All this they have to report.
Okay. In written form, sir, in written form.
The written we have to.
Okay.
అయితే నేనే దొంగనని ఎవరు చెప్పడు కదా.
Sir, auditor's responsibility, sir. That's
auditor's responsibility is only the audit report.
Okay.
In the audit report, there is no column for it.
Sir.
So at least for this year, you are safe.
Sir. Okay, thanks.
Subject appears to be interesting. Many are online. Any more, sir? Or we switch over to this next one? Filing of the return.
We are all waiting for it, sir. There is one more query on the chat box. What is the procedure for surrendering the 80G certificate?
If you go to the online, you will get to the form 10AC and other actions. Go through the other actions and surrender the application. Once it is surrendered, if any donation given to your institution by any donor, you will not get any benefit. But at the time of taking the loan itself, you have to collect all the information of the SSC. Ask his PAN number. Generally, they refuse to give PAN number. At least Aadhaar card, mode of receipt. And many people used to ask me, suppose a person has given a 1 lakh rupees donation, can we take? Yes, you can take. It is only restrictions imposed on the SSC, the donor only, not to the donee. Now, is it the Winman screen is appearing, sir?
No, sir.
I'll select this sharing the screen. Is it now?
Yes, yes, yes. Now it is visible, sir.
Now it is the first page. First page, all you know very well, the basic data of the SSC. Now coming to the next page, you find section 11 to 13. But many people used to write income from other sources, information in the income from other sources. So do not touch for this. Go to taxable income under section 11 to 13. If you just click it, you find 139(4)A, 12(A)(S), 1023(C), no. Suppose yours is an institution registered under 1023(C), 6A or so, or 1023(C), 3AD. Then switch over to 139(4)C. Automatically, a list has come, a big list. So of which you select, if yours is a medical institution, select AE. else AD, other not necessary for you. So take AD. This, then here it is 12A, no. Then all the figures have gone. All the columns are now gone. Only the information what you have to write is in the next page. Only one column, gross receipts. The gross receipts are this I have written as the corpus donation. In the ITR, here is the column, income exempt under section 10. So here select. It is not here, somewhere else. There you fill up only that particular column. That will do, because I have filled up for 12A, therefore I am not directly getting that. Now here switch over to for 12A institutions, select 139.4A. Here it is yes. Then all the other items are open, because this is the second regime of the exemption institutions. Sometime back, I think Mr. Kesaro has asked me about this non-TDS. If you go through the last part of his additions under 11(1)(d), corpus donations not invested in the section 11(5). As per the new provision, the corpus donations are to be deposited into the bank, separate bank maintained. If it is not, we have to mention here what is the amount not deposited into the bank. Next, section dissolvences under 11(1)(a) or 1023C, read with section 40A IA for non-deduction of taxes at source. And the next is 40A3 3A for political parties. So 40A3 also you have to mention here. 1B, 11(1)(b) is if you follow the mercantile system of accounts, if any money is not received, just promised, you have taken into consideration, but the money is not received. There are two explanations given in 11(1). As per this particular, if you cannot spend the money because it is not received, you have to file an application to the assessing officer for accumulation. For 12A institutions, the form is to be filed. When they follow the cash system of accounts, they file form number 10 for accumulation. For the institutions which follow the cash system of accounts, opting for the explanation to 11(1), they have to file form number 9 capital A. That is also to be filed well within time. If the money is not utilized within the time, then 11(1)(b) comes into picture. It is deemed income to be mentioned here. Next, 11(3), when the money is accumulated but not spent within the time, spent for other purposes, etc., etc., those conditions I have explained, that becomes the deemed income that you have to show here. Then accumulated income 12 subsection 2, somebody was asking about in a interested person if it is given concessional rate. So that income is chargeable here under section 12 subsection 2. Dissolvences under 13(1)(c) and 1D. What are these sections? 13(1)(c) is about amounts, benefits given to the interested persons is 11(1)(c). Benefits passed on, funds not invested under section 11(5) is a violation under section 13(1)(d). All the monies are to be deposited into the bank and other securities as mentioned in 11 subsection 5. If the funds are not deposited, then 11 13 1D comes to play and 30% tax is to be paid on it. Now here, this aggregate income, these figures we don't get here, that is we are getting from the next page. The screen is not permitting because on the toolbar on the top. Could you bring down the toolbar to the bottom? I'm unable to open the next page. So in this ITR, first is the SSC information. Automatically you get from the previous year's file, verifiers information and bank accounts. Now these are all imported from the previous year. Details of the trust. Here we have to write the names of persons, 7 members and their addresses. I have just written only the town's name, write the address and the relation. What are they? Director, founder, member of the society, member of the governing council, etc. You fill there. Resident, yes or no. In most cases, yes. The PAN number. If it is Aadhaar number, you convert it into Aadhaar. Then write Aadhaar number. Else it is PAN number. Then write mobile number. Email ID is only optional, not necessarily to be made. Whereas sharing, put here just the zeros. And here the next name of the persons who made substantial contribution. Substantial contribution is more than 50,000 at any time to the institution as donation. Those persons are interested persons under section 13, subsection 3. Next, details of relatives of the other. Their relations names to be entered here, their addresses, PAN number. Then details of registration. The details of registration, you have 12AB, 12A, 12AA. What we have to enter here, is it 12AB or 12A or 12AA? What applications you have just filed is only for re-registration. If you go through form 10AC, column number 6, section, subsection, provision in which a registration is being granted, there it is written 12A only. So 12A means you have to select only this 12A. Right here, the original old 12A name and the registering authority, Commissioner of Income Tax. Next is effective date. You select the effective date from form 12A and then enter here. Don't write here 12AB. This is for the renewal institutions or new institutions which are registered under 12AB. Then it is Foreign Contributions Act. So right here, foreign contributions. If you have already registered under Darpan, SEBI, those things we have to mention here. If registered only under FCRA, right here the name of the date of registration, registration number, approving authority, effective date. Now here comes the accumulation of funds. The accumulation of funds automatically, if you have already accumulated in the early years, automatically this table is pre-filled. It can appear in the pre-filled. Suppose you have selected 11.2 for the current year. If you enter here any figure, automatically it comes here. So here automatically the figure, it appears, and then you have to write here whether amount invested under section 11.5, amount in other modes other than 11B. These things we have to mention here. If already you have the figures earlier accumulations, if any amounts are applied during these years, this you have to write here. Now coming to this corpus donations, now the hot topic of this corpus donations. In the first screen, I have written some 1 crore 50 lakhs. Here I have written 1 crore 50 lakhs corpus donations others. This has automatically came here. One crore 50 lakhs. Here the problem is about the opening balance. Most of our members are writing opening balance means from the balance sheet they are entering the opening balance, but that will not take here. Opening balance means it is already amount claimed as exemption in the earlier years. Therefore, do not write anything in the opening balance column. And amount applied during out of this 1 crore 50 lakhs. Suppose 1 crore rupees drawn and utilized right here. Amount invested deposited. Amount invested, that means 1 crore amount is utilized, balance 50 lakhs is left over, that you write here. Deposited, this is only amount invested, deposited back into the corpus, not claimed as application earlier. The amount invested and in financial year in which it is applied, and the amount invested in 11.5. Suppose amount applied here, if I write 1 crore, automatically the balance has come to 50,000. Right here, if any amount is redeposited back, which financial year that we have to write, because this is the first year, the figures may not be get correctly. So these columns you have to file as per 11.5, what amount you have deposited also you have to mention here. Once it is filled, automatically the last column gets closed. And the similar columns given for the borrowed funds also. Next column is the details of loans and borrowed. So here also, opening balance we don't write, loan borrowed during the year. So here we have to write what is the loan taken from which bank, etc. Unless I fill the column, we don't get it. So closing balance is 1 lakh, amount applied during the year. Amount repaid. So when it is amount applied 50,000, balance amount appearing only 50,000 out of 1 lakh, I have repaid and claimed as application. Balance 50 lakhs I can claim in the future years. Now coming to this audit part, already pre-filled you get the name of the auditor under which section he is signing the balance sheet, date of report uploaded, whether audited or not, automatically you get. Only these are the important columns for this. One is the corpus donations, other is the borrowed funds. So amounts invested under section 11.5, if you have accumulations, if any, those accumulations you have to mention here in form them section 11 subsection 5. When it is invested, when it is to be matured, what is the maturity value, etc. We have to write here in these columns. Date of investment, source of investment, 11.5. So these are the particulars. Last year also we have the same columns which we can fill up. Now, these are the expenses. Now, if any expenditure suppose you have only 1 crore of rupees, but whereas you have spent 1 crore 50 lakhs, that 50 lakh rupees is more spent. That excess amount we cannot claim as carry forward, but we have to mention here where from that 50 lakhs is spent. That is source of funds for revenue. Here we have to mention whether it is out of accumulations of early years or corpus donations, borrowed funds, etc. We have to write. Similarly, we have for the capital expenditure. If here we have the source of funds. Similar columns we find here, these also to be filled. If any capital expenditure incurred more than what you have received, then you have to mention here. Now about this balance sheet, somebody was asking. First of all, own funds. Own funds, the columns are actually ridiculous columns. Normally what we write is the capital fund, what is available in the balance sheet, we write here. But there is no suitable column to write that fund. If there are no 11 to accumulations, explanation 11, etc., right here, accumulated income of 15%. But it is not exactly correct because you must have received early years corpus donations out of which you have built up the capital fund. So right here, other reserves, if any, that is current year's excess of expenditure over income or minus figure or excess of income over expenditure that you write here. So balance in capital fund account, you write here in the accumulated 15% column. There is no other way to enter anywhere. Then right here, the secured loans, unsecured loans, sundry creditors, other payments, gross block, less depreciation. So these are the columns we can fill up from the balance sheet. Now coming to this balance sheet audit report, there is a column for application of income property for the benefit of persons under 13 subsection 3. Suppose if I enter here, yes, you get all this. So this information you find under section 11 subsection 13 subsection 2, there are certain restrictions there. Part of income or property lent to any person under 13 subsection 3, land and building or property. And somebody was asking about salaries, that also available here. Point number 3, payment made to such persons by way of salary, allowance or otherwise. Just write here the name, the amount. It is not our obligation to say whether it is reasonable or unreasonable. Open this, write here the name of the person, what is the amount paid. That is our obligation to prepare the audit report. So if you do not have any of these interested persons payments, simply write no. Then automatically everything gets closed. More than this, did you find any other difficulties, sir, for filling up this form? To the members, I'm asking. Have you tried for any forms so far? Any queries about this form filling up?
Sir, balance sheet is compulsory, sir.
Compulsory.
కొన్ని temples కి balance sheet ఉండదు సార్, అప్పుడు ఎట్లా?
You have to get it prepared. Otherwise you cannot generate JSON file.
సార్ ఫైల్ చేసేటప్పుడు 40 AB ఆప్షన్ అడుగుతుంది సార్, అది ITR 7 ఫైల్ చేసేటప్పుడు.
అది ఒక ప్రాబ్లం ఉందండి. 44 AB అడుగుతుంది.
అవును సార్.
అది విన్మెన్ కి అడిగాము, తర్వాత CBDT కూడా లెటర్స్ పెట్టాము. We got a message whether it is official or not. Just click it and file it, because 44 AB కి లింక్ పెట్టారు కాబట్టి అన్నిటికీ కామన్ గా 44 AB అని పెట్టామన్నట్టుగా మెసేజ్ వచ్చింది.
క్లిక్ చేసి ఫైల్ చేసేయమంటారా సార్?
ఫైల్ చేసేయండి. There is no other way.
Okay. Sir, thank you.
Loans and borrowings దానిలో ఈ ఇన్వెస్ట్మెంట్స్ 11 సబ్సెక్షన్ 5 అని చెప్పి ఉంది సార్. అది
అంటే మీరు బ్యాంకులో ఉంచారు అంటే ఆటోమేటికల్లీ 11(5) అట్రాక్ట్స్. లోన్ క్యాష్ కింద డ్రా చేయరు కదా.
చేయండి సార్.
ఎప్పుడు అవసరం ఉంటే అంత మట్టుకు తీసి వాడతారు కదా, అదర్వైజ్ ఇంట్రెస్ట్ పడుతూ ఉంటుంది కదా.
Just now I have failed. Sorry, accumulated 15% accumulation amount 30 years 40 years గా ఉండే ట్రస్ట్ల విషయంలో మనము అసర్టైన్ చేయలేకపోతున్నాం ఎంత ఉంటుంది అనేది. టోటల్ జనరల్ ఫండ్ అంతా దాంట్లో వేసేయమంటారా?
అంతకంటే మార్గం లేదు.
లేదు, అదర్ రిజర్వ్స్ చూపించమంటారా జనరల్ ఫండ్ అని?
అవి అదర్ రిజర్వ్స్ కింద జస్ట్ కాల్ ఇట్ యాజ్ 15% అక్యుములేషన్స్ కిందనే పెట్టేసాయి.
తర్వాత ఇంకో డౌట్ వచ్చింది సార్. ఒక 2 crores లోన్ తీసుకున్నారు వే బ్యాక్ 2016-17 లో ఫైనాన్షియల్ ఇయర్ లో. 2 crores 50 lakhs పెట్టి బిల్డింగ్ కట్టారు ట్రస్ట్. ఇప్పుడు ఆ 2 crores లోన్స్ లో 50 lakhs రీపేమెంట్ చేసేసారు విదిన్ ద నెక్స్ట్ 5 years లో. ఇప్పుడు 1.5 crores లోన్ బ్యాలెన్స్ ఉంది, బిల్డింగ్ బ్యాలెన్స్ ఏమో 2.5 కోటి ఉంది. లోన్ బ్యాలెన్స్ 1.5 crore, బిల్డింగ్ బ్యాలెన్స్ అట్లాగే ఉంటుంది, అదే మనం డిప్రిసియేషన్ క్లెయిమ్ చేయడం లేదు కాబట్టి 2.5 crores ఉంది. ఇప్పుడు ఇన్వెస్ట్మెంట్ అవుట్ ఆఫ్ లోన్స్ అండ్ బారోయింగ్స్ అని ఇక్కడ ఇమూవబుల్ ప్రాపర్టీ అని చూపించమంటున్నాడు 11(5) లో. 11(5) ఇన్వెస్ట్మెంట్స్ దగ్గర ఇన్వెస్ట్మెంట్స్ ఇన్ 11(5) లో ఇమూవబుల్ ప్రాపర్టీ ఉంటే కూడా చూపించు అంటున్నాడు. ఇప్పుడు నేను ఆ బిల్డింగ్ 1.5 crore అని చూపిస్తే లోన్ కు మ్యాచ్ కావాలా అనే ఉద్దేశంతో బ్యాలెన్స్ షీట్ లోనే 2.5 crores ఉంది, మిగతా బిల్డింగ్ కాస్ట్ ని అదర్ ఫిక్స్డ్ అసెట్స్ లో వేసేయాలి నేను.
కరెక్ట్ గా క్యాచ్ చేయలేదు. 1.50 crore ఏమో మీది లోన్ ఉంది,
బిల్డింగ్ బ్యాలెన్స్ ఉంది సార్.
బిల్డింగ్ బ్యాలెన్స్
2.5 crores ఉంది ఒరిజినల్ కాస్ట్.
ఓకే,
16-17 ఫైనాన్షియల్ లో కట్టారు. బారోయింగ్స్ ఏమో అప్పుడు 2 crores తీసుకున్నారు, ఇప్పుడు 50 lakhs రీపే చేశారు. 2 crores లోన్ అవుట్ స్టాండింగ్స్ ఉన్నాయి బ్యాలెన్స్ షీట్ లో.
అది కరెక్టే, కానీ ఇప్పుడు ఏమంటే మనం ఇక్కడ వేయటానికి లోన్స్ అండ్ బారోయింగ్స్ కాలం ఉంది కదా, ఆ కాలంలో వేయటానికి మీరు ఆల్రెడీ యూటిలైజ్ చేసి క్యాపిటల్ ఎక్స్పెండిచర్ క్లెయిమ్ చేశారు అప్లికేషన్ కింద.
అప్లికేషన్ లో రీపేమెంట్ ఆఫ్ లోన్స్ ని క్లెయిమ్ చేస్తాం ఈ 5 years లో 50 lakhs.
కాబట్టి ఇప్పుడు ఉన్న బ్యాలెన్స్ ని మీరు మళ్ళీ క్లెయిమ్ చేయడానికి వీల్లేదు.
1.5 crore మనం ఇంకా ఇయర్ ఏం క్లెయిమ్ చేయదు, రీపే చేయలేదు, క్లెయిమ్ చేయండి సార్. మళ్ళీ ఫ్యూచర్ లో రీపే చేసినప్పుడు క్లెయిమ్ చేసుకుంటూ వస్తాం కదా.
క్లెయిమ్ చేయడానికి లేదు, ఆల్రెడీ మీరు దాన్ని కన్సిడర్ చేశారు కదా ఎక్స్పెండిచర్. అందుకనే ప్రీవియస్లీ నాట్ యూటిలైజ్డ్ అని పైన ఒక కాలం ఇచ్చాడు. ప్రీవియస్లీ నాట్ క్లెయిమ్డ్ అని ఉంది కాలం.
అవును సార్.
ఉన్నప్పుడు ఏంటంటే ఆల్రెడీ మీరు ఆ లోన్ అమౌంట్ అంతా కూడా క్లెయిమ్ చేసేసారు క్యాపిటల్
లేదు సార్, క్యాపిటల్ ఎక్స్పెండిచర్ క్లెయిమ్ చేయలేదు. ఎందుకంటే ట్రస్ట్ ఇన్కమే 40 lakhs, నేను 2.5 crores బిల్డింగ్ కాస్ట్ ని నేను ఎక్స్పెండిచర్ క్లెయిమ్ చేయలేను కాబట్టి చేయలేదు, నేను గతంలో కూడా చేయలేదు.
దాని మీద డిప్రిసియేషన్ వేస్తున్నారా
సార్?
అసలు వేయట్లేదు. సో ఎప్పుడైతే అసెట్ క్లెయిమ్ చేయలేదో దాని అప్పుడు రీపేమెంట్ ని ఇప్పుడు క్లెయిమ్ పెట్టుకోవచ్చు.
రీపేమెంట్ క్లెయిమ్ పెడతాం సార్. ఇప్పుడు అవుట్ ఆఫ్
దాంట్లో సమస్య ఏంటంటే మీరు ఓపెనింగ్ బ్యాలెన్స్ వేసి పేమెంట్స్ కనుక చేస్తే అదేమో జేసన్ సరిగ్గా రావట్లేదు. వాళ్ళు ఇంకా పూర్తిగా సెట్ చేసినట్లేరు సిస్టమ్. మీరు క్వరీస్ పెట్టిన ఆన్సర్ చెప్పట్లేదు అది.
మరి ఎట్లా సార్ రిటర్న్స్ వేస్తున్నారా, ఓన్లీ 10B ఆగిపోతున్నారా సార్?
నేనైతే వేసేస్తున్నానండి. మాకు ఈ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ లేదు ప్రస్తుతం. అయితే లోన్స్ సమస్య లేదు, కార్పస్ ఫండ్ సమస్య లేదు.
కార్పస్ ఫండ్ కూడా సమస్య
లేదు, అందువల్ల నేను వేసేస్తున్నాను.
సార్ ఇంకో విషయం సార్, బ్యాలెన్స్ షీట్ లో ఉండే ఫిగరు మనకు ITR లో వచ్చే కార్పస్ ఫండ్ ఫిగరు, బ్యాలెన్స్ షీట్ లో ఉండే కార్పస్ ఫండ్ ఫిగరు డిఫర్ అవుతాం సార్. ఎందుకంటే టు ద ఎక్స్టెంట్ అప్లైడ్ డిడక్ట్ చేయమంటున్నాడు ITR బ్యాలెన్స్ షీట్ లో కార్పస్ ఫండ్ ని. నెట్ అన్యూటిలైజ్డ్ కార్పస్ ఫండ్ చూపించమంటున్నాడు అక్కడ.
అందుకనే ఆ కార్పస్ బ్యాలెన్స్ షీట్ లో తీసుకెళ్ళేసి అక్కడ కలిపేసేయండి. పైన పాత బ్యాలెన్స్ ఉంటే క్యాపిటల్ ఫండ్ కలిపేసి 0 చేసేయండి. కరెంట్ ఇయర్ లో తీసుకున్న దానికి మాత్రం బ్యాంకులో వేస్తేనే మీకు పర్మిషన్ ఇస్తున్నాడు.
సరే సార్. సార్ బ్యాంక్ లో వేయకుండా అప్లై చేస్తే సార్
రాదండి.
రాదా సార్ కార్పస్ ఫండ్?
అంటే అది నార్మల్ డొనేషన్ అయిపోతుంది. డోంట్ కాల్ ఇట్ as కార్పస్ డొనేషన్.
సార్ బిల్డింగ్ కట్టమని బిల్డింగ్ ఫండ్ రైజ్ చేస్తుంటాం సార్. బిల్డింగ్ కట్టేస్తాము.
డోంట్ కాల్ ఇట్ as కార్పస్ డొనేషన్, కాల్ ఇట్ as ఓన్లీ కాంట్రిబ్యూషన్. అవుట్ ఆఫ్ దిస్ కాంట్రిబ్యూషన్ 85% యూటిలైజేషన్ కార్పస్ క్యాపిటల్ వచ్చేసింది కదా, అది క్లెయిమ్.
సో ఈ బిల్డింగ్ కన్స్ట్రక్షన్ కు మనం ఇచ్చే డొనేషన్స్ ని ట్రస్ట్ వచ్చేసి బిల్డింగ్ ఫండ్ అని కార్పస్ అని పిలవకుండా నార్మల్ డొనేషన్ కింద ట్రీట్ చేసి అప్లికేషన్ క్లెయిమ్ చేయమంటారు.
అవునండి.
దట్ విల్ బి సేఫర్ విత్ ది మాడిఫైడ్ రిటర్న్ ఫార్మ్.
అవును.
లాస్ట్ ఇయర్ మనం బ్యాలెన్స్ షీట్ లో కార్పస్ అని రిపోర్ట్ చేసిండాం సార్. మనం ITR లో కూడా కార్పస్ ఫండ్ అని రిపోర్ట్ చేసిండాము బ్యాలెన్స్. ఆ ఫిగర్ 11/5 పైన 11/5 షెడ్యూల్ పైన మన కార్పస్ ఫండ్ ఎంత, నాన్ కార్పస్ ఫండ్ ఎంత అని రిపోర్ట్ చేయమంటాడు. అక్కడ రిపోర్ట్ చేసిండాం ఫిగర్స్. బట్ వీ కెన్ ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ అండ్ రికన్సైల్. ఈ ఇయర్ ఎందుకు ఫిగర్ మారింది అంటే వీ కెన్ ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్, బట్ ఫిగర్స్ విల్ డిఫర్.
అది ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ అంటే మీరు మళ్ళీ అక్కడి నుంచి ఏదైనా ఇష్యూ వచ్చినప్పుడు అసలు మీకు JSON ఫైల్ తేడా వస్తుంది కదా, రిటర్న్ అప్లోడ్ కావాలి కదా.
అవును సార్.
సో ఈ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ ఏంటంటే క్యాపిటల్ ఫండ్ వాడు యాక్చువల్గా కార్పస్ అనే దానికి ఆ టేబుల్ పెట్టడానికి కారణము పాతవి కన్సిడర్ చేయకుండా ఓన్లీ కరెంట్ ఇయర్ నుంచే తీసుకుంటున్నాడు. లోన్స్ కూడా అంతే. ఇంతకు ముందు మీరు లోన్ తీసుకున్నప్పుడు దాంతో ప్రాపర్టీ ఎక్వైర్ చేశారు. అయితే దానిలో ఏమైందంటే విచ్ ఈజ్ నాట్ యూటిలైజ్డ్ ఎర్లియర్ అనే చోట మనం షెల్టర్ తీసుకోవాలి. షెల్టర్ తీసుకుంటే నాకు 2-3 చెప్పటం ఏమంటే దానిలో కూడా మాకు JSON ఫైల్ జనరేట్ కావట్లేదు అంటున్నారు. ఓపెనింగ్ బ్యాలెన్స్ అని వేస్తే
చూస్తాను సార్. నేను వేసాను, ఇంకా JSON ఫైల్ జనరేట్ చేయలేదు. వచ్చిందా? ప్రాసెస్ లో
అది నేను చేయడానికి ఏంటంటే నా దగ్గర కేసెస్ లేవు.
సరే ఓకే. నేను చేసిన తర్వాత మీకు కాల్ చేస్తాను.
అట్లాగే చూద్దాం
సక్సెస్ అయినానా లేదా అని.
ఓకే ఓకే
అండ్ సీక్ యువర్ హెల్ప్ ఇఫ్ నెసెసరీ.
తప్పకుండా.
థ్యాంక్ యూ
సార్. సార్ అంతకుముందు 44AB క్లిక్ చేయకముందు ఆధార్ OTPతో అయిపోయేది సార్ ఫైలింగ్. ఇప్పుడు డిజిటల్ సైన్ అడుగుతుంది. 44AB క్లిక్ చేస్తే డిజిటల్ సైన్ తో ఫైల్ చేయాలా?
44AB టిక్ చేస్తే మరి డిజిటల్ అడిగిందా అంటే నేను ఇంతవరకు రేపటి నుంచి వేద్దాం అనుకుంటున్నాను. అఫ్ కోర్స్ వీ హ్యావ్ ద డిజిటల్ ఆల్సో.
ఓకే, డిజిటల్ తోనే చేయాలి అడుగుతుంది సార్.
డిజిటల్ ఉంటే నాకు ప్రాబ్లం. నాకు 2 ఉన్నాయి, OTP ఉంది, డిజిటల్ ఉంది. సో ఐ విల్ చూస్ డిజిటల్.
ఓకే
సార్. గుడ్ ఈవినింగ్ సార్.
గుడ్ ఈవినింగ్
సార్. నా పేరు కోటా సుశాంత్ సార్. కడపైన మాట్లాడుతున్నాను. జనార్దన్ సార్ వాళ్ళ అబ్బాయి సార్. నా పేరు కోటా సుశాంత్ సార్. హలో
చెప్పండి
సార్. వినిపిస్తుందా సార్?
చిన్నగా లో వాయిస్.
సుశాంత్ సార్ జగన్ కోట జనార్దన్ రావు గారు అబ్బాయి అండి సార్.
ఓకే ఓకే
సార్. నమస్తే సార్. ఇప్పుడు వినిపిస్తుందా సార్?
వినిపిస్తాం
సార్. ఇప్పుడు ఒక ఎడ్యుకేషన్ ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్స్ టెక్స్ట్ బుక్స్ వీళ్ళే కొని వీళ్ళే అమ్ముతున్నారు సార్. అంటే అమ్మడం అంటే స్టూడెంట్స్ కి, బయట ఏమమ్మరు, స్టూడెంట్స్ కే ఇస్తారు. ఎంతైతే కొంటున్నారో అంతే రేటుకి వాళ్ళు ఇస్తున్నారు. వెదర్ దిస్ ఈస్ రిసిప్ట్ అండర్ ఇన్సిడెంటల్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ సార్, మనం రిపోర్ట్ చేయాల్సింది ITR లో.
అంటే ఇక్కడ ప్రాబ్లం ఏమంటే బుక్స్ కి GST కూడా లేదు కదా. బుక్స్ కి పర్చేజ్ కానీ సేల్ కానీ GST కూడా అప్లై కావట్లేదు. కాబట్టి మీరు అది అప్లికేషన్ ఆఫ్ ఇన్కమ్ లో స్కూల్ మెయింటెనెన్స్ లో చూపించేస్తే పోతుంది. ఇన్నర్ కాలం లో తీసుకొని సేల్స్ అంటే ఫ్రీ డిస్ట్రిబ్యూషన్ లేకపోతే ఫీజులో కలెక్ట్ చేస్తున్నారా?
ఫీజులోనే కలెక్ట్ చేస్తారు సార్. టెక్స్ట్ బుక్
ఫీజు కలెక్షన్స్ ఏమో చూపించండి ఇన్కమ్ కింద, బుక్స్ ఏమో ఎక్స్పెండిచర్ లో చూపించేసేయండి.
ఇన్కమ్ లో మెయిన్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్స్ మెయిన్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్స్ కాలం లో రిపోర్ట్ చేయాలా, ఇన్సిడెంటల్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్స్ కాలం లో రిపోర్ట్ చేయాలా?
ఇన్సిడెంటల్ కాదు, మెయిన్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్స్ లో తీసేసుకోండి.
సరే సార్, ఓకే సార్. థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్.
థ్యాంక్ యూ. I think the time is also up. Any more queries, sir, about this subject?
Sir, there are a couple of questions in the chat box. So there is one question from Jagdish Krishna. While uploading ITR 7 asking for 44AB flag and not uploading even though Form 10B filed, trust had no business income, any remedy? I think this is answered.
ఇందాక అడిగారు, చెప్పాను కదా. 44AB అనేది ఆల్రెడీ మేము CBDTకి పెట్టడం అయింది. తర్వాత విన్మెన్ వాడిని అడిగితే మేము వీఆర్ హెల్ప్లెస్ అండి, ప్లీజ్ టికెట్ అండ్ ఫైల్ ఇట్ అని చెప్తున్నారు వాళ్ళు.
The next question is from Mr. Srinivas. So in current ITR 7 of ITD, when the trust is having both 12A and 80G, it is accepting only one exemption. Can you clarify this?
80G అనేది అసలు ఎగ్జంప్షన్ ఎవరు చెప్పారు? 80G exemption to the donor, not to the donee. It is only recognition. 80G అనేది approval given to the institution to accept the donations. And recognized institution కనుక money ఇస్తే వాళ్ళు they can claim in their return of income the donations under 80G.
Okay, there is one more question, sir, from Saranya TVNV. In compute tax, no error is showing while filing ITR 7. Okay, so I think this is just an intimation. So yeah, that's all.
ఇది చెప్పాలంటే ప్రాబ్లం ఏంటంటే రకరకాల సాఫ్ట్వేర్స్ ఉంటాయి, ఒకదానిలో చెప్పి ఇంకో దానిలో చెప్పాలంటే కష్టం అవుతుంది. అప్పుడు ఏమంటే డైరెక్ట్ ఇన్కమ్ ట్యాక్స్ సైట్ లో ఎలా ఉందని చూసి దాని నుంచి చెప్పాల్సి ఉంటుంది.
Members, are there any other queries?
సార్
Yes.
హలో సార్, ఒక ఎడ్యుకేషన్ ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్ మర్కంటైల్ సిస్టమ్ ఫాలో అవుతాం సార్, సొసైటీ.
ఓకే,
ఇప్పుడు మరి క్యాష్ బేసిస్ కు షిఫ్ట్ అవ్వాలన్నా టోటల్ గా?
షిఫ్ట్ అవ్వమని చెప్పట్లేదు వాడు అప్లికేషన్ ఆఫ్ ఇన్కమ్ వచ్చేసరికల్లా యాక్చువల్ పేమెంట్ తీసుకోమన్నాడు. సపోజ్ ఇన్ యువర్ ఇన్కమ్ అండ్ ఎక్స్పెండిచర్ అకౌంట్ ఎక్స్పెండిచర్ అంతా వేసిన తర్వాత యాడ్ అవుట్ స్టాండింగ్స్ అని పెడతారు కదా.
అవును సార్.
ఆ యాడ్ అవుట్ స్టాండింగ్ బ్యాలెన్స్ షీట్ లో కనిపిస్తుంది. అది తీసేసి మిగతాది మీరు అప్లికేషన్ తీసుకోండి.
సరే సార్.
తీసుకున్న తర్వాత ఎప్పుడైతే అవుట్ స్టాండింగ్ ప్రొవిజన్ అనేది పే చేస్తారో సబ్సిక్వెంట్ ఇయర్ లో, ఆ ఇయర్ లో మళ్ళీ ఇది క్లెయిమ్ చేసుకోవచ్చు అంటాడు.
సరే సార్. నెక్స్ట్ పాయింట్ సార్, ఇప్పుడు ఇన్కమ్ వస్తుంది సార్, మర్కంటైల్ సిస్టమ్ లోనే రికగ్నైజ్ చేసాము. 11(2) కింద మనం అక్యుములేట్ 15% మించి ఉందనుకోండి సర్ప్లస్ అమౌంట్ మర్కంటైల్ సిస్టమ్ లో. 11(2) కింద చేయాలంటే ఫామ్ 10 అంటాడు. ఫామ్ 10 తర్వాత 11(5) కింద ఇన్వెస్ట్మెంట్ చేయమంటాడు, డబ్బులే రాలేదు. సో 9A పొమ్మంటారా అలాంటి సిచ్యువేషన్ లో?
మర్కంటైల్ సిస్టమ్ అనేది అసలు నాట్ ఎట్ ఆల్ అడ్వైజబుల్ టు చారిటబుల్ ఆర్గనైజేషన్స్. ఎందుకంటే కోడ్ అని వచ్చింది సార్, డైరెక్ట్ ట్యాక్సెస్ కోడ్ అని కొన్నాళ్ళు పెట్టారు. తర్వాత అది గవర్నమెంట్ మారిన తర్వాత తీసేశారు. డైరెక్ట్ ట్యాక్సెస్ కోడ్ లో వన్ ఆఫ్ ద కండిషన్ ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్స్ మస్ట్ ఫాలో ఓన్లీ క్యాష్ సిస్టమ్ ఆఫ్ అకౌంట్స్ అని ఇచ్చారు.
సరే సార్, బాగుంది.
కానీ ఏఎఫ్ఆర్సి వాడు ఒప్పుకోడు కదా సార్, 2 బ్యాలెన్స్ షీట్లు
చెప్పాను కదా,
ఇద్దరు ఆడిటర్లు ఇవ్వాలి.
వాడికి ఏమో విత్ ఇవన్నీ చేసిస్తూ ఉండాలి. ఇక్కడ ఇన్కమ్ ట్యాక్స్ క్యాష్ సిస్టమ్ ఆఫ్ బ్యాలెన్స్ షీట్ చేసుకోవాలి, కానీ ఇక్కడ అప్లోడ్ చేయాలి బ్యాలెన్స్ షీట్ మళ్ళీ.
అవును సార్,
ఈ రెండు డిఫర్ అవుతాయి.
యూడిఐని పెట్టి అప్లోడ్ చేస్తాం అనుకోండి క్యాష్ బేసిస్
ఈ
లో.
ప్రాబ్లం ఎప్పుడు ఉంటుంది సార్, 11-2 వచ్చేసరికి ఏమైందంటే అక్కడ ఇన్కమ్ మీరు ఊరికనే యాడ్ చేసుకుంటూ వెళ్తారు, ఫీజు రిసీవబుల్ అని.
అదే సార్,
బట్ ఫీజు ఏమో రిసీవ్ కాదు. ఆ 11-2 ప్రాబ్లం ఎప్పుడు ఉంటుంది మీకు
సార్. ఇప్పుడు 11-2 కు పోకుండా ఇది క్లాస్ 2 ఆఫ్ ఎక్స్ప్లెనేషన్ బిలో 11-1 లోకి పోతే 9A ఫైల్ చేస్తాము.
ఫామ్ 9A వేస్తారు. ఆల్మోస్ట్ దానికి దీనికి ప్రొసీడ్ అంతా ఒకటే
సార్. 11-5 లో ఇన్వెస్ట్ చేయాలనే కండిషన్ 9A కి వర్తిస్తుందా?
వర్తిస్తుందండి.
11-2 కు 11-5 వర్తిస్తుందని నాకు ఐడియా ఉంది. ఈ 9A కూడా వర్తిస్తుందా?
కండిషన్స్ ఉన్నాయండి.
ఇన్కమే రాలేదని చెప్తున్నాడు కదా సార్ యాక్ట్ లోనే. ఇప్పుడు కాకపోతే ఇన్కమ్ రాకపోతే 9A ఫైల్ చెయ్యి అంటున్నాడు. ఇన్కమే రానప్పుడు నేను డిపాజిట్
రానప్పుడు మీరు ఎట్లా ఇన్వెస్ట్ చేస్తారు? ఇన్వెస్ట్
చేయలేము కదా. సో 11-2
ఇన్కమ్ వచ్చి ఉండి మీరు స్పెండ్ చేయలేకపోతే దానికైతే అఫ్ కోర్స్ ఫామ్ 10 వస్తుంది. 9A వచ్చేసరికి ఏంటంటే ఇన్కమే రానప్పుడు ఆ ఎక్స్ప్లెనేషన్ తీసుకున్నప్పుడు అసలు 11-5 అప్లికేషన్ ఉండదు.
11-5 లో ఇన్వెస్ట్మెంటే చేయలేము, ఇంపాసిబుల్.
మనీ లేనప్పుడు ఎట్లా చేస్తాం 11-5?
అప్పుడు 9A ఫైల్ చేయడమే బెటర్ ఏమో కదా సార్ 11-2 ఫామ్ 10 కంటే.
అంటే దాని రెస్ట్రిక్షన్స్ దానికి ఉన్నాయి.
ఫామ్ 10 లో 11-5 ఇన్వెస్ట్మెంట్ అనే పాయింట్ ఉంది సార్.
5 years అని ఇచ్చాడు.
9A లేకపోతే గవర్నమెంట్ ఆఫ్ ఆంధ్రప్రదేశ్ 5 ఏళ్ల తర్వాత ఇచ్చినా మనకు రెస్ట్రిక్షన్ లేదు, ఎప్పుడు వస్తే అప్పుడు ఖర్చు పెట్టంటాడు.
దానికి ఒక టేబుల్ ఇచ్చాడు మళ్ళీ రిటర్న్ లోనే. ఆ టేబుల్లో ఎర్లీ ఇయర్స్ అవన్నీ వేసుకుంటూ వెళ్ళాలి. ఇంత రికార్డ్ మెయింటైన్ చేయాలి.
సో మనకు పని పెరుగుతుంది
చాలా. అంత రెమ్యూనరేటివ్ కూడా కాదు మీకు.
కాదు సార్. అదే 11-2 కు పోతే 11-5 లో ఇన్వెస్ట్ చేయలేము కదా అనేది ఒక డౌట్ ఉంది సార్, అంతే. ఫీజు రిసీవబుల్ ని
అవును
అక్కడ వైలేషన్ అంటాడా?
అక్కడ వైలేషన్ అవ్వదు కదా, అసలు అమౌంట్ వస్తే కదా ఇన్వెస్ట్మెంట్. అమౌంట్ రానప్పుడు ఇన్వెస్ట్ ఎట్లా చేస్తాం? అది చేసేటట్టుంటే అసలు 9A ఫామ్ కి ఎందుకు వెళ్తాం?
సరే. తర్వాత ఈ 15% అక్యుములేషన్ అమౌంట్ ఖచ్చితంగా 11-5 లోనే ఇన్వెస్ట్ చేయాలని మనకు మ్యాండేటరీనా సార్? ఏమన్నా రిలాక్సేషన్ ఉంటుంది?
13 subsection 1 clause D చూస్తే అక్కడ ఏమంటాడంటే ఫండ్స్ ఆఫ్ ది ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్ అంటాడు. ఓన్లీ 11-2 అండు. ఫండ్స్ అంటే ఫండ్స్ ఇంక్లూడెడ్ ఎవ్రీ ఫండ్ ఇంక్లూడింగ్ 15% అక్యుములేషన్.
ఓకే. థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్.
థ్యాంక్ యూ.
There is one more question in the chat box by a participant, Mr. Srinivas. Can educational institute accept corpus donations?
ఇంతకు ముందర ఫామ్ సెక్షన్ 1023C ఇవన్నీ ఏమి లేవు సార్. కార్పస్ డొనేషన్ సపరేట్ ఏమి ఉండేవి కాదు. ఇప్పుడు అన్ని అట్ పార్ విత్ 12A అన్ని తీసుకొచ్చారు. కార్పస్ డొనేషన్స్ తీసుకోవచ్చు, దానికి కూడా ఈ అకౌంట్ లో వేయటము, సపరేట్ అకౌంట్ లో వేయటము, ఇవన్నీ కండిషన్స్ 12Aకి ఏవైతే అప్లై అవుతాయో 1023C ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్స్ కూడా అవే అప్లై అవుతాయి.
సార్ వన్ మోర్ పాయింట్ సార్. 1020C 3AD 3AE అండ్ 3AB యూనివర్సిటీస్, వీటికి ఇన్ టైమ్ 139(1) డ్యూ డేట్ లోపల రిటర్న్ ఫైల్ చేయాలి అనే కంపల్షన్ మ్యాండేటరీ లేదు కదా? దట్ ఈస్ మై వ్యూ సార్. వాట్ ఈస్ యువర్ వ్యూ సార్?
దానికి లేదు ఆ రెస్ట్రిక్షన్స్ ఏమి దీనికి 1023 3AD వాటికి అప్లై కావు.
3AD 3AE అండ్ 2AB తర్వాత అయినా వేసుకున్నా మనకి ఎగ్జామ్షన్ వస్తుంది. ఓకే సార్. మెయిన్ గా ఈ యూనివర్సిటీల విషయంలో 3AB బ్యాలెన్స్ షీట్లు ఉండవు సార్. ఇప్పుడు ఏం చేయాలి? ఇంతవరకు నడుపుతా ఉన్నాం బండిని.
ఈ 3AB లో చాలా పెద్ద ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ వచ్చింది. నేను ఒక టెక్నాలజికల్ యూనివర్సిటీకి ఒక ఇది రాసిచ్చాను, నేను ఒపీనియన్ అడిగితే రాసిచ్చాను. నాట్ ఇన్ ఫేవర్ ఆఫ్ ది ఇన్స్టిట్యూషన్, బట్ ఒపీనియన్ అనేది ఒకళ్ళ ఫేవర్ గా రాసేది కాదు కదా.
అవును సార్.
ఒపీనియన్ ఈజ్ ఒపీనియన్. రాసినప్పుడు ఐ థింక్ నౌ దే హ్యావ్ టు పే 700 crores ట్యాక్స్. అక్కడ ఏమైందంటే సబ్స్టాన్షియల్లీ ఫండెడ్ బై ది గవర్నమెంట్ అనేది ఓన్లీ ఆర్ సబ్స్టాన్షియల్ అని. సబ్స్టాన్షియల్ అనే దానికి పాత రోజుల్లో దానికి ఏమీ రెస్ట్రిక్షన్ లేదు.
అవును డెఫినేషన్ లేదు.
అది కార్పస్ కింద వచ్చినా నాన్ కార్పస్ కింద అంటే క్యాపిటల్ డొనేషన్ వచ్చినా లేకపోతే క్యాపిటల్ గ్రాంట్ అంటాం, క్యాపిటల్ గ్రాంట్ కానీ రెవెన్యూ గ్రాంట్ కానీ వచ్చినప్పుడు దానికి 50% అనే తర్వాత రూల్ 4E 5E దాన్ని అమెండ్ చేశారు.
అవును
చేసిన తర్వాత దాన్ని 50% అండ్ అబోవ్ ఈజ్ సబ్స్టాన్షియల్ అనేది కన్ఫర్మ్ చేశారు.
అవును సార్.
దీనికి మోక్షగుండం విశ్వేశ్వరయ్యది కర్ణాటక హైకోర్టు ఇచ్చింది, దాన్ని సుప్రీంకోర్టు అప్హెల్డ్ చేసింది. అది ఇప్పుడు ఆంధ్రప్రదేశ్లో ఒక యూనివర్సిటీకి ఇవ్వాల్సి వచ్చింది, మీకు ఛాన్స్ లేదని దాని మీద సర్వే చేశారు. ఇప్పుడు ఆ మ్యాటర్ అప్పీలేట్ కమిషనర్ దగ్గర ఉంది. వాళ్ళు ఏమంటే మాకు 1023C తీసుకున్నాం రికగ్నిషన్, మాకు అప్లై అవుతుంది అంటారు. ఇప్పుడు మేము ఇవ్వమంటున్నారు వీళ్ళు డిపార్ట్మెంట్.
సార్ ఇప్పుడు 3AB యూనివర్సిటీకి గతంలో బ్యాలెన్స్ షీట్ లేకుండా ITR 7 ఉన్నది, వేస్తా ఉన్నాం. ఆడిట్ రిపోర్ట్ లేదు, వేస్తా ఉన్నాం, జరిగిపోతా ఉన్నది. ఈ ఇయర్ బ్యాలెన్స్ షీట్ ITR లోకి వచ్చేసింది. తయారు చేయాలంటే ఇంపాసిబుల్, ఎందుకంటే పాత డేటా అంతా గ్యాదర్ చేసి బ్యాలెన్స్ షీట్ వేయాలంటే ఇంపాసిబుల్. ఏం చేయాలి సార్?
ఆ కాలమ్స్ వెయ్యకపోతే రిటర్న్ పోదని వాళ్ళతో బ్లాంక్ గా చెప్పటం, అంతకు మించి మనం చేయగలిగింది ఏం లేదు. ఇవాళ టెంపుల్స్ కూడా అన్నిటికీ బ్యాలెన్స్ షీట్స్, స్టేట్మెంట్ ఆఫ్ అఫైర్స్ అన్నా ప్రిపేర్ చేయాలి కదా. మీకు టెంపుల్స్ కి వచ్చేసరికల్లా బిల్డింగ్ ఒకటి ఉంటుంది, బ్యాంక్ బ్యాలెన్సెస్ ఉంటాయి, తర్వాత దానికి డైటీకి ఉన్న ఆర్నమెంట్స్ ఉంటాయి. వాళ్ళ దగ్గర ఒక వాల్యూని తీసుకొని సర్టిఫికెట్ తీసుకొని ఆ వాల్యూ అడాప్ట్ చేసుకోవటమే, చేసి బ్యాలెన్స్ షీట్ తయారు చేసుకోవాలి. We call it as statement of affairs.
Okay sir, thank you sir.
Thank you.
Thank you sir. Any other queries from the participants?
Give my number to them.
Sure sir.
They can call.
Yeah.
We are 15 minutes behind schedule. Thank you so much for hearing patiently.
సార్ స్టార్టింగ్ లో ఒక 10 నిమిషాలు స్లో అయింది కదా సార్, అది ఆ ఎఫెక్ట్
It's not my mistake sir, I am on time. 5 minutes before ఉన్నా నేను.
అదే అవును సార్.
We took actually a 5-minute permission from sir.
Yeah.
For the participants to join.
10 నిమిషాలు అని చెప్పిన దానికి ఆన్సర్. I am well there on time అండి.
100% sir. You have logged in by around 5:55. Yes sir. Thank you sir. It is a quite very participative and interactive session, and you are very highly knowledgeable and specialized and having a commendable knowledge in the trust has enlightened our members today. This on behalf of Ongole branch of SIRC, we would like to thank you for taking your time and giving us this lecture, and also thanking the members and also the Ongole branch committee members. Now I would request CA Jagan Mohan Rao Garu to sing our national anthem. Request the members to stand up.
Keep it here, sir.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता, पंजाब सिंधु गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल वंग, विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा, तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे, गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता, जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे, जय हिंद.
Thank you sir.